Hey, honey. Welcome to Ashley Loves True Crime, honey. This isn't just a true crime podcast, it's where the podcast meets psychology. We talk about the crimes you've heard about, the minds behind them, and the hard truths people avoid. Mental health, morality, and what happens when anger goes unchecked. New episodes drop with real conversations, no shock bait, and no sugarcoat. If you're ready for true crime with depth, pull up a seat. This is True Crime, Honey Style. Informational and educational purposes only. The content discussed reflects publicly available reports, court documents, and media coverage at the time of recording. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This podcast does not claim to establish guilt, innocence, or intent, nor does it provide legal, medical, or psychological advice. Opinions expressed are solely those of the host and are intended to encourage discussion, awareness, and thoughtful conversation around true crime, mental health, and moral accountability. Listener discretion is advised. Hey, honey, welcome in to another podcast episode of Ashley Loves True Crime Honey. And again, that's Ashley Loves True Crime Honey. I'm so happy to have you guys in with us today, including my live studio audience. I just wanted to welcome you guys into this series podcast episode that I'm doing called Bloodlines and Blind Faith Black History Month True Crime. This month, we're going to be stepping into the stories they tried to bury. This is Bloodlines and Blind Faith, a Black History Month true crime series about trust, betrayal, and the cost paid by people of color when history is allowed to repeat itself. They told us these stories were history, that they were finished, that justice already came, but history has a way of repeating itself when the truth is buried. This month, I'm telling the stories they tried to erase. In my 5-part series on Ashley Loves True Crime, and this will be called Bloodlines and Blind Faith, a Black History Month true crime series. From families murdered for their wealth, to black bodies thrown overboard for insurance money, to slavery rebranded as punishment. These aren't just crimes, they're patterns. The Bible says what has been will be again. And if we don't face the truth, we're doomed to relive it again. This isn't entertainment, this is remembrance, it's resistance, because once you know the truth, you don't get to unsee it. Again, Bloodlines and Blind Faith coming this Black History Month. Tonight's episode is the Osage Murders. These will be cited through the FBI's database. The focus is wealth, guardianship, betrayal, and the birth of the FBI. So again, welcome everybody in. A little admin. We are actually preparing ourselves for snow. I have gotten everything that I need. I went to the grocery store, got all the food that I needed in the house. I spent a good $200 to $300 worth of groceries, so I am packed and ready for this snow or ice that's supposed to be coming. And then I also went ahead and got batteries today. I got flashlights and I got hand warmers. My live audience, if you want to come off mute and tell me, are you guys prepared for the snow? Do you have everything that you need to hunker down, and is snow coming or ice coming your way?
I'm at the North Pole, so we're actually not getting a bunch of snow. But today it is negative 20 degrees, so yeah.
Oh, wow.
We
That is
could
cold.
Negative 20. My boy.
Negative 20.
But that just means stay inside. Right. Negative 20 is insane. You live in the North Pole? Literally. Pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
Anybody else? Y'all getting snow? Yeah, so I'm in Dallas. We supposed to get snow today, tomorrow, the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, ours is supposed to be coming Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday. Don't got his wing got negative 20. And just be mad about that because it's like you just can't get warm for real. No, you cannot. Oh my goodness.
I know that's real. All right, you guys. Thank you, live audience, for your commentary. We surely appreciate it. I want to go ahead and get into the story of the night so we can get going here. And also a funny story, you guys. I'm just going to go ahead and let the live know. I recorded already with the live, but I thought I had pressed record. Yeah, that was fun. So thank you guys for that. Admin, the Osage Murders, wealth, guardianship, betrayal, and the birth of the FBI. We like to believe that history is something we survived, something we grew out of, something we fixed. But the Bible tells us otherwise. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9 says. And if that scripture doesn't apply to this story, I don't know what does. As we enter Black History Month, I want to be very clear. This story is not just a Native history story, it's an American history story. And it hit home for me as someone who is African American and Native American on both sides of my family. I know all too well these stories that are hidden. And it mirrors what has happened to the black communities and other people of color over and over again. How our wealth has been stolen, trust weaponized, and lives taken while the systems looked away. This is the story of the Osage Murders. In the early 1900s, oil was discovered beneath Osage land in Oklahoma, and overnight the nation became some of the wealthiest people per capita in the world. But their wealth didn't bring safety, it brought predators. The U.S. government declared the Osage incompetent to manage their own money and assigned white guardians to control their finances. So let's that sink in. So we have people like doctors, lawyers, bankers, and even people's husbands, people who were supposed to protect them. One of the first known victims was Anna Brown, an Osage woman found dead May of 1921. She had been shot in the head and left in a ravine. Sounds familiar? At first, authorities brushed it off as an accident. Then Anna's mother, Lizzie Q, died under suspicious circumstances. Then Anna's cousin, Henry Warren, was found shot in the back of the head. Then Anna's sister, Rita Smith, and her husband, Bill Smith, were killed when their home was blown up with dynamite. And the deaths didn't stop. At least 24 Osage people died under mysterious or violent circumstances during what became known as the Reign of Terror. And here's the part that should give you chills to the bone. The mastermind behind it all, his name was William Hale. They called him the King of the Osage Hills. He was wealthy, respected, powerful, and deeply evil. William Hale orchestrated these murders so all headrights would pass through inheritance. His nephew, Ernest Burkhart, was married to Molly Burkhart, Anna Brown's sister. As Molly's family members died one by one, the money moved closer and closer to Ernest. This wasn't random violence, this was strategic extermination. In Michael 7:5, trust ye not a friend. Keep the doors of thy mouth from that lieth in thy bosom. Because sometimes the enemy isn't outside the house, he's sitting at your table. And even when the Osage begged for help, local law enforcement did nothing. Witnesses were threatened, some were murdered. One attorney investigating the case was actually thrown from a moving train. Silence was enforced. Eventually, the corruption became too big to hide. So in 1923, the federal government stepped in, assigning the Bureau of Investigation, what we know now as the FBI. This case became one of the first major homicide investigations in federal history. Agents went undercover, they posed as cattlemen and insurance salesmen, they built trust inside the community, and finally, the truth came out. William Hale was convicted in 1929 along with Ernest Burkhart and a hired killers, but justice came too late for the dozens of victims who had already fallen under the hands of William Hale. This case helped transform the Bureau of Investigation into a professional, centralized agency because local systems had failed so completely. And that right there is a hard truth. Historically, justice for people of color has always come after bodies pile up enough to be ignored. In Proverbs 29, when the wicked rule, the people mourn, and mourn they did. So, why tell this story during Black History Month? Because exploration didn't end with the Osage, it didn't end with slavery or even with Jim Crow. It evolved. Different century, same sin, greed, racism, power disguised as protection. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. That's Hosea 4:6. This podcast exists so knowledge is no longer withheld because history will repeat itself unless we tell the truth, learn from it, and refuse to stay silent. The Osage murders weren't just a crime story, they were a warning about what happens when greed is allowed to hide behind respectability, a warning about what happens when systems claim to protect people they secretly profit from, and a warning about what happens when truth is buried long enough that the next generation doesn't recognize the danger. Luke 8:17, for nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad. The truth always comes out. The question is, how many people have to die before we're willing to face it? Because history doesn't repeat itself loudly at first, it repeats itself quietly in trusted hands. And if you're listening to this and think, that couldn't happen to me, that couldn't happen today, I want you to sit with that thought because the Osage believed that too. This story is about Native lives, about Black lives, about every community of color that was told to trust a system that never intended to protect them. Speak up for those who cannot speak up for themselves. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. Proverbs 31:8-9. So my call to action tonight is, don't just consume this story. Carry it. Talk about it. Teach it. Question the system you're told is neutral. And never let comfort convince you that injustice is over, because remembering is an act of resistance, and silence is how history survives long enough to repeat itself. My questions tonight that I'm going to leave you guys with is, if history keeps repeating itself, what are we refusing to learn? Who benefits when these stories are left out of textbooks and conversations? Are we willing to recognize injustice even if it doesn't look violent yet? And most importantly, what responsibilities do we have once we know the truth? Therefore, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth not, to him it is sin. James 4:17. Knowing changes us, and once you know, we don't get to unsee. If you enjoyed tonight's podcast episode, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and also stay tuned, as again, this is part 1 of my 5-part series. The next, we will be focusing on community destruction, silence, and the generational trauma behind it. If you're intrigued, tune in to the next episode of Ashley Loves True Crime, honey. Thanks again to my live audience that have come in and shared their thoughts and their opinions. Please remember that I record every Thursday, and new episodes will be uploaded on YouTube every Monday. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. I look forward to chatting it up with you guys in the comments. Thank you again for coming in, and as always, stay sweet out there, honeys. Bye.